What's up, you beautiful bitches? I had a few things I wanted to talk about before I gave the summary of this episode. You can now find our podcast live at a few different places, including SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and Stitcher Radio, and we'll still be posting episodes to YouTube as well. As far as what we talked about in this podcast, we talked about how high school and college do nothing to prepare you for real life, how our culture and happiness are deprived from having to work more than you actually live, a world where robots take over most of the blue-collar jobs, and how that would affect everyone in today's society. And we wrapped up the podcast talking about the idea of the human race transcending and becoming gods ourselves. Also wanted to say, if you enjoy what we're doing here, please share this with somebody you know that you think would enjoy this as well. We're just trying to get our name out there. As always, hope you enjoy this, and we'll catch you on the other side.
You are now listening to the Random Words Podcast, a podcast about nothing and everything.
Prepare your anus.
Thanks for joining us here once again on the Random Words Podcast. I'm Jason, he's Matt.
What's up, motherfuckers?
And we're here to put some random words in your ear holes. Back at it once again, podcast number 4. How you feeling about it, buddy?
It's still a fucking small closet. That's about how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's a little cold in here.
It's fucking frigid today.
Yeah, we actually had some snow come in today down in Texas and closed down most of the roads and everything around here. There was a lot of wrecks and shit. Both of us, we actually got out of work early just because we're from Texas and we don't drive on ice.
No, I was driving down the road just once and fucking felt my tires lose traction. Nope, that's it. I'm done. I'm going home.
Yeah, same thing. I was actually crossing a bridge on my way home. I was actually already left work and I was heading home and I was crossing a bridge and started making turn left down the service road to get on the highway, and then as soon as I started turning left, tires started slipping, and then I was just like, well, fuck, I'm glad I'm going home at this point.
Yeah, I'm not trying to wreck my personal truck or my work truck.
Yeah, same with me. I mean, we both drive work trucks, and I mean, that's just not something I want to risk. I mean, I've already wrecked one of my work trucks when I first started at the job I'm at now. I was only working at this job for about 3 months when it actually happened. I ran a red light. I guess I just wasn't paying attention or something like that, and I had a lady that came through the same light and T-boned me. She completely fucking destroyed her car and my work truck. So I completely totaled a work truck 3 months into a new job. And I'm going to tell you right now, that phone call to my boss was the hardest shit I've ever had to do in my life. Just fucking mortified.
Yeah, I bet it was, man. I mean, I had a similar experience whenever I started working where I'm working now. I was up in a customer's attic, crawling through it, and I fucking stuck my foot right through the attic on my first job of my first day out in the field.
Yeah, so you just have a foot dangling through the top of somebody's roof? Was the customer there? Did they see it?
They didn't see it whenever I did it, but I mean, obviously, I went and got them and showed them. Yeah. Me and my coach went and got them and showed them.
What'd your coach say?
He was like, well, that fucking happens.
Shit happens.
Yeah, he's like, I mean, don't worry about it. They're not going to do anything. It's their first day. They expect it. I mean, every company has to allow some budget for new people to fuck up.
I just don't know if the budget was a full-size truck in my part. I was very close to getting fired. I don't know how I didn't get fired. Like, as soon as I got hit, I was like, well, fuck, there goes that. Time to look for a new fucking job. I had no idea, not even an inclination that they would keep me around. It was just not an option.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm fucking fired. I went home that night and started looking for other jobs. And I'm been there for 2.5 years now, so I don't know. They kept me around for some reason, but I guess I'm a little lucky in that part.
Yeah, I think they were probably happy with you because I imagine it was an older truck.
It was an older truck, yeah. It was actually an older Ford F-150. And actually out of the deal, so, I mean, I wrecked that one and completely totaled it. I took my boss's work truck. She had a newer Ford. I believe it was an '08. It's the same truck I'm driving right now. And so I took hers, because I think mine was like a 2001 that I wrecked or something like that. It was really old. And so I took her '08, and then she actually got a brand new truck. Like the company I work for bought her a brand new truck, I think it was 2014, 2015 model. So, she was fucking happy about it. She's like, don't worry about it, man. You got a new truck. I got a new truck. It fucking worked out great. You're good.
It's always a good feeling to get a new work truck.
Yeah. Because I was definitely starting with the scraps. I mean, just signing on, you get the shittiest stuff. And so getting to move up to that next one was pretty fucking nice.
Yeah, same. I mean, I've been through 3 different vans since I've been here. The first one was just dog shit. Like, the worst thing you could possibly imagine. It was laid out super shitty. All the racks were horrible. And the second one was okay. It didn't have an auxiliary port. Now I've got a fucking van with an auxiliary port.
So you've already gone through 2 trucks.
Yeah.
See, man, that's bullshit. I've been here for 2.5 years, and I've only been through 1, and that's only because I fucking wrecked the first one.
Well, my company's budget is significantly higher than yours.
That's true. That's very true. They do have a higher budget. But I want a fucking auxiliary port. Like, I have to fucking turn my phone upside down and shove it in a little cubby hole to get it to amplify the sound when I listen to shit in my work truck.
That's definitely not the best.
No, it's not. I want a fucking auxiliary port, and I don't think you should get one, and I shouldn't. That's not fair.
I mean, you can take my work van if you want.
I would totally love to have your work van.
You want to drive around a rape van with a big target on the side, essentially?
Yeah, I would love that.
I swear, man, I don't know about you, but I feel like people fucking aim for my work truck.
What, as far as with their cars?
Yeah, 100%.
How so?
Because I think they see it as like an open budget because it is such a large company that I work for. I feel like they see a lawsuit there and they want to fucking get hit by me.
Oh, so they want you to hit them so then they can sue the company and make that shmoney.
Yep. I feel like that's the thing. Either that or there's just more people who are fucking idiots than I thought.
I think I'm going to start aiming for your work truck.
Please don't.
Yeah, I'm going to find you. I'm going to aim for your work truck, and we're going to get that shmoney. And we're going to get us a nice-ass studio from all this lawsuit money, and we just have to make sure that they don't ever know that we were connected.
But I'll probably get fired.
That's fine. We'll have like millions of dollars from the lawsuit.
That's a little bit ambitious.
You never know. It could happen.
It could happen.
But regardless, I mean, had a little bit of banter to open up the podcast, but we're going to be talking about, or at least try to get through a few different topics today. The first one we actually are going to start with was something you wanted to talk about. It was talking about school and how it doesn't really prepare us for real life.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fucking ridiculous that we spend, 12 years in school on average if you don't go to college or preschool. And you don't fucking know shit about the adult world. Like, I had zero preparations for the adult world.
Oh, I mean, no one does.
Yeah, my reality was completely shattered.
I mean, we actually went to college, but you go through high school, you go through college, all that shit, they teach you all this random fucking knowledge you don't really need. I mean, yeah, some of it's good, but I mean, a lot of the advanced shit, like in college, I went up through Calculus 3. I've never used Calculus 1 since I got out of college, let alone Calculus 3. So, I mean, a lot of that shit, and I mean, those are mandatory. And I mean, I could have, taken a few different maths. I mean, I didn't have to go with calculus. I just went with calculus. But, I feel that those really high advanced maths and shit like that should only be required for whatever position you're going for. I don't think they should be required for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. Because, I mean, stuff like that is highly specialized.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're going to be an engineer or a bridge engineer or something like that, yeah, you probably want some calculus. You probably want Calculus 3. But I mean, I didn't really know what I was going for. I just wanted a general associate's degree to say I had a degree to put that on an application somewhere to get a decent job. And then maybe, sometime down the road, I would figure out what I actually want to do, go back, get the bachelor's and start from there. But I mean, just to get the general associate's degree that wasn't even majoring or minoring in anything, you had to have those maths and those histories and Englishes that are required, even if you don't really fucking care about them. So
what you're telling me is that you don't use the quadratic formula every single day at work?
No, I do not. My working field does not use the quadratic equation. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's ever come up in my profession. Now, I say that, but, there's probably sometimes I could have used it, but I'm sure there's a lot of easier workarounds than using the quadratic equation.
Yeah. What about Pythagorean's theorem?
No, I've never used that either. I mean, a squared plus b squared equals c squared does not come up where I work.
I mean, granted, that is like the one useful math equation.
It is good, but I feel like unless you're in construction or engineering or something like that, you're just not. If you're working in an office, it's never going to come up. So, I mean, why force feed that to people? Why not teach us something useful? Especially like, when you first get thrown out into the world, when you actually go to get a job and shit like that, you're fucking overwhelmed. At least I was. I don't know. I would assume most people are. I don't know about you. But, I mean, I was so fucking overwhelmed, and especially, once you move out and get that first apartment. So you moved out and you actually started rooming with me here at this apartment. So this is your first apartment to go to. I've been through a couple. One of my apartments actually got hit by a tornado. That's a story for later, I guess. But, so this is my third, and so that first apartment, man, that was a fucking stressful event. That was something, man, because you feel like, well, what if I lose this job? What if I lose this job and I got this apartment, I can't pay the rent, and then that's going to go on my credit, and then my credit's going to tank, and then I'm not going to be able to buy a car, all this crazy shit. And so, you're so overwhelmed, and they didn't teach you a single fucking thing about this in high school or in college, even in college. Like high school, maybe you can fuck around more learning the general shit, but then you would think, like in college, it would at least be, if speech is required for college, you would think they would require you to at least take some class over economics to where, like, not government economics or something like that, but down to earth, real shit you're going to need, how to do your taxes, how to budget money and shit like that. But we don't get any of that, even in college, when it's supposed to prepare you for the real world. High school is supposed to give you the general knowledge of humans, whereas college is supposed to prepare you for real life. And I didn't get a fucking thing in college that I can use.
Yeah, definitely didn't prepare me either, man. Like, I had no expectations of what to expect, going into this shit.
Yeah, definitely not.
I couldn't even begin to understand how stressful all the fucking adult shit was. Looking for an apartment, finding that apartment, looking for a job. And that's definitely by far the worst one, man. Because, I spent about 3 months or so looking for a good job. I was working some shitty thing before that. Then I spent about 3 months looking for a good job that I could actually, pay bills with and go to work and all that shit, have a decent, normal schedule. That shit was the most discouraging thing I've ever faced.
Yeah, and we talked about this when you were first looking for your job, because I went through that as well. I graduated from college a few years before you, and, I went through the same thing. It took me about 3 months or so to find a decent job, one that, paid enough to where you could feel like you could move out on your own and still have enough money not to get overwhelmed or something like that. And I remember you were saying, I hope I can get a job in, like a few weeks or a month or something. I was like, man, just be prepared, because shit's not that easy. When they say the job market's hard to get into, it really is. Just looking, and you would think somebody with an associate's degree, it's not some huge achievement, I guess. I feel like a lot of people, even if you think, if you didn't have the money to go to college or something like that, or you feel that, you're not smart enough, honestly, to me, college was easier than fucking high school. Like, I've fucked off all of college to get that associate's degree. Now, granted, we didn't go to a big college. We went to a little junior college that was close to our home. So, that could have been a difference. If you go to one of these big universities, maybe it's a lot more stressful and you have to do a lot more. But, the junior college we went to, I felt like I didn't have to do shit. I fucked off. Hell, there was one class I turned in the same essay all year. It was an online course, so I wasn't taking it up at the school. But it was an online course. It was just some English writing course. And so the first essay I did, I did whatever we had to read over something or pick a topic. I picked a topic, wrote my essay, and turned it in. She gave me 100. Cool. The next essay came around, and I completely fucking forgot about it. I forgot about the deadline, and then that night at about 10 o'clock p.m., and it was due at 12 a.m., I was like, fuck, I'm supposed to write a paper. And so I was like, well, fuck, I don't know what to do. I can't write this paper in 2 hours. And so I was like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn in that same paper from last time, so the one I already got graded, that one that I got 100 on, I'm going to turn that in for a second time. And then when she writes me back over the email and she's like, hey, you turned in the same paper, I'll be like, oh, holy shit, my bad, and then send the other paper. So that would at least give me another day to write it, right? Because I figured she'd check it that next day. And so I turned in that same paper and never got an email back. I was like, what the fuck? Why didn't she send me an email? Started looking at it. She graded that one with 100. Didn't even read the fucking essay. I turned that same essay in 7 times that semester. And I made a fucking 100 in that class. So, I feel like that college, it's, at least for what we did, the associate's degree was a little bit of a joke. But even still, an associate's degree you would feel would be able to land you at least a decent job somewhere. And I felt like that out of all the stuff I looked at, that associate's degree didn't mean shit. Like, no job I looked at gave a fuck whether or not I had an associate's degree. I didn't get paid higher because of it. I didn't get a better job with better pay because of it. All the jobs are the exact same. And we're both right now working blue collar. So, we're not even in a white-collar job, at least just some desk-pushing job, or something like that with those associate's degrees. We're both working blue-collar work, and we went to college and actually got that degree. So anyone that didn't go to college after high school, they got the same fucking jobs we got right now. What was the purpose of us even going to fucking college?
I think that the whole purpose of it is that you look slightly better than the people who don't. Like, whenever you turn in an application, if there's one laying there on that boss's desk and he sees that person didn't finish college or even go to college, then he sees yours with a college degree, I think he's probably going to choose you over the guy who didn't, just because that shows your determination and perseverance.
I guess so. It would definitely, you might get another job because of having that degree, but I feel like it doesn't open any doors for better jobs.
No.
I think it's the same doors are open for all the jobs that are out there, but you just look a little bit better than the guy before you.
I believe that for the most part, an associate's degree is just a new high school degree.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel about it as well. I mean, like I said, when we went to college, I don't even feel like, I felt like high school was a lot harder than college was. I fucked off so much more in college than I did in high school. And so to me, it's like, yeah, we were the first guys from both of our families to graduate college. That's cool, whatever. But I still feel like it was a little bit of a waste of time, and a lot of money was wasted as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of the whole ease of it comes with the actual teachers/professors. I mean, because the teachers in high school, they're paid to care about you. These fuckers in colleges, they don't give a shit about you. I mean, they know you for, 3 months, and then you're out. They never see you again, more than likely.
Very true.
So, I mean, they don't have time to, A, form a bond with you, and B, they don't just give a shit because they don't get paid to babysit you like high school teachers do.
So, I mean, I guess that's a good point. There's a few different teachers I can remember back in high school that I really liked, that, I felt like, at least connected with somewhat. I can't think of a single teacher in college that I connected with.
I can only think of one, and that's because I worked for him.
Yeah. So, and go ahead and talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, my biology professor in college, he stood up one day in class and he's like, hey, I need an assistant. So, I mean, if any of you guys are interested in, just come see me after class. And I went up there after class, talked to him, and he was like, oh, yeah, by all means, work with me. And me being an assistant for his schoolwork turned out to me going to parking garages and sitting on the back of my truck changing light bulbs, or standing on the back of my truck changing light bulbs. It was an adventure. I mean, I did so much shit, and I have a lot of experiences now. So, I mean, I don't regret it. But, I mean, it definitely wasn't a forever job or even a move out and pay bills job.
Yeah. Wasn't he some, millionaire or something like that?
Oh, yeah. The guy moved here from Iran. He is legitimately a self-made man. He came over here with only a couple $100s and the clothes on his back, and he made himself into a millionaire. Now he owns 6 different businesses. He does all kinds of crazy shit. He's a college professor. I mean, he is one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And, I mean, honestly, it's pretty awe-inspiring with his age how hard he still goes.
How old was he?
I think he's about 60-ish.
And he's still running, what'd you say, 6 businesses or something like that?
6 different businesses. One of them's a car mechanic. The other's a lighting business. He owns a sign business. Just all kinds of random-ass shit.
And he owned a ranch as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he owns a ranch. It's just crazy about how much that he can juggle at once, I mean, it's pretty inspirational to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where, that's what America's founded on, right? I mean, that's, all of the immigrants coming over from different European countries, back when it was booming and all coming through, New York and stuff like that. And you get all these different immigrants coming in, and all of those people came over here with nothing in their fucking pockets. Not a single fucking thing in their pockets, right? So they all came over here, and then some of those people are, as you said, the hardest working fucking people because they grew up with nothing. You said he came from Iran. I'm assuming he didn't have much over there. He came over here chasing that American dream to be something better. And it feels like, a lot of people, and I'm not excluding myself out of this as well, and I guess it's whatever you get accustomed to, right? Whatever your life has been, you just, you get used to it like that. So when you don't know those hardships or something like that, you're never going to, feel that push, that drive to make you better. It seems like a lot of people that came up through really hard fucking times and shit like that, those are the ones that grow up to do something great. It feels like those people have just so much drive and so much passion behind what they do because they've seen the worst of the worst. They've lived in those little shitty houses with no electricity, no water, whatever the case is. It feels like with us, how we've been privileged to have at least, a good life, a very comfortable living, never had to worry about too much. It feels a lot harder to have that same drive and that same passion about doing something.
Yeah, and I mean, it all goes back to, like you said, what you're accustomed to.
Yeah.
And what you grew up knowing. I mean, if you knew nothing other than hardships and living in a shack with a dirt floor and shit like that, then, I mean, if you come over here and live in a trailer home, then that's going to be a palace. I mean, it's all about perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, perspective, as we've gone over before, perspective is very different depending on where you come from and who you are.
Vastly different.
Yeah, and I mean, on that same train of thought, as far as not having anything and pushing yourself for greatness, I mean, it seems like, a lot of people that don't have as much are actually happier than people that have more. They always say you can't buy happiness with money, right? Money doesn't buy happiness. I mean, when you think of it, I mean, even people, you watch any videos of it, like an African village where somebody goes in to help build a well or build a house or a library or something for the African children. You watch any of those videos, those African tribes, a lot of them are fucking, that you can't wipe the smile off their face. They're fucking happy. And they don't have anything as far as what we would consider, our material possessions. They don't have hardly anything, but there's so much more giving and they share. And so it seems like happiness is directly related to how much shit you own. Because it seems like the more shit you own, the less happy you are. Like, there's a ton of rich people out there that struggle with depression and shit like that. But then you go to these African cultures where they don't have anything. They have dirt floors and little huts, and they love being around people. They love, communicating with each other and telling stories and sitting around the fire. And they just have this human bond, once again, that we're missing a lot of it to do with technology. I mean, I would love to be that guy that went over and helped out an African village. I can't. I'm not that guy. I would like to be him, but it's just not in me. But I think there's something so awesome about that kind of idea of going to some of these places that don't have as much money and going there and helping them build a well or building a library for kids. And then like those kids, you'll see those guys, they'll leave for maybe 3 or 4 years and then go back, take a trip back to that same village. And those kids just run out and they fucking hug them. They love them. You essentially become part of their community when you go to one of those villages. And it seems like that they're so much more happy than all of the first world countries combined.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that has a lot of stuff to do with the hardships that they face, with the daily struggles. I mean, whenever you're going out and you have to kill what you're going to eat, I mean, that's a pretty big fucking significant thing. Having to actually fend for yourself in the world, not being able to go to a supermarket and pick out a steak.
Yeah, I mean, because, if you don't go out there and hunt, say you go on a hunting trip in Africa and you're from an African tribe, if you don't have a successful hunt, you might starve. So, I mean, that ups the ante a little bit, right? I mean, it's a lot more important. So, when you see, like, I know if you watch any of these videos where they get a big kill or something like that over in Africa, they kill a gazelle or whatever the case is, and they come back with all this meat, the village has a fucking party. Everyone's just so fucking excited to see all that food coming in because they don't know where their next meal's coming from. I mean, we have it so fucking easy here in America. I say in America, I mean, in any
westernized country.
Yeah, we have it so easy in any westernized country to where, I mean, you go to the supermarket, you pick up some chicken, you're good. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people without money or something like that are falling on hard times. But the majority of people in any westernized country have it easy compared to an African tribe. But they're so much more happy than we are.
And I mean, I think that has to do with us. We work hard every day to make fucking money. What is money? What is currency? It's a piece of paper with some lines on it.
Yeah, it's a piece of paper that the government tells you means something.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean shit. Whenever the apocalypse hits, that paper's not going to be worth fucking anything.
Yeah.
It's going to be the guys who have the chickens, the guys who have the rifles kill the chickens and shit like that. I mean, paper doesn't mean shit. It's so fucking trivial that we work away our lives to do that.
Yeah, because, I mean, most people, they work more hours than they actually spend with their family.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, us included, I mean, we come home, I get off at 5 or so, get home about 5:15, 5:20, and then I go to sleep at around 12 or so. I mean, that's what, 7 hours. So I get 7 hours here to myself. I give my work 8 hours, 9 hours if you include my lunch. So I give them 8 hours of my day, and when I get home, I have 7 hours of my day left. I mean, it feels like when you're working so much, there's not enough time in the day. You always, and there's a lot of adults that are actually sleep deprived because you want more time for yourself. There's like an internal struggle and it's just sitting there screaming, that you want to stay up and watch another show or do whatever else you want to do, play some video games, whatever, read a book. There's this internal struggle to where you want to stay up to do your own thing because you don't have enough time for yourself. You don't have enough time for your family. You want to stay up and, play with your kids or whatever it is, but you have to go wash dishes. You have to do some laundry. You have to cook dinner. And so, out of those 7 hours that I have left when I come home, after, doing whatever I need to do, taking a shower, eating, cooking dinner, whatever. So you call that, maybe another 2 or 3 hours gone from there. So, I mean, now you're looking between, 4 and, 4 hours or so, right around 4 hours left for yourself throughout the day. So, I mean, that makes so many other people so many adults are sleep deprived because of that reason. Why should we have to work 8 hours a day and only have to have 4 hours a day for ourselves, for our passions and for whatever else we want to do in our lives?
Yeah, and I mean, the thing, too, that makes that so difficult is the fact that we are working to make other people money. We're making some money, but we're never going to get fucking rich working blue-collar labor for other people. Yeah.
And I mean, there's some famous quote, I don't know who said it, but it's build your dreams or somebody will hire you to build theirs. I mean, that's a profound fucking quote. Because if you don't follow your dreams and you don't push for what you want, you're going to get stuck in the system just like everyone else is. You're going to be that guy that's working, the blue collar job his whole life, and you'll never be able to work out of that middle class. But it's so hard to follow your dreams though, right? Because there's not a lot of money in your dreams, at least not initially. So to follow your dreams, you have to put in the extra time. You have to go to work. And then, once you get done giving your boss an 8 hours of the day, then you have to come home and start your passion. And not a lot of people can do that. Not a lot of people can physically push themselves that hard to where they can go do their passion after they just got off an 8-hour shift.
Yeah, definitely. It's so hard even just, to find time to do what you want, much less finding time to do essentially a second job to perpetuate your future. It's so hard for us. I feel like we're especially at a disadvantage here because we do come from middle class, as you said. We're not coming from rich stock like most of the people who do own their own businesses and work towards their own dreams.
Yeah, like with us, I went and got the associate's degree. At that time, I didn't pay for any of that. My mom paid for that. Now, granted, it was at a junior college, so it wouldn't cost as much, but it cost probably about $6,000 or so for the associate's degree. But the bachelor's degree, they didn't give out bachelor's degrees at the junior college we were at, so we would have had to go to an actual university for those. A bachelor's degree, just another 2 years for that, 4 years for that bachelor's degree was somewhere like $16,000 to $20,000. So if you want that bachelor's degree, because as we said before, the associate's degree is nothing more than it does nothing more than make you look better than the candidate next to you. It does. There's not a lot of jobs that require an associate's degree. It'll make you look a little bit better, but all the same jobs are for the most part out there. So the bachelor's degree is the actual degree that gets you somewhere else, gets you a better job. But to get that degree, you need to have $20,000. So if you don't have $20,000 and you come from middle class, then you're talking student loans. And then you're already $20,000 in debt by the time you get out of college.
And you haven't even started your life yet.
Yeah, and that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, likewise, man. The thought of being in debt at all, I've never been in debt. I've never even had a car payment or anything like that. I was lucky enough to have my mom buy me a truck before I graduated, and my mom paid, once again, like you said, for college and stuff like that. I've never been in debt, so the thought of being in debt scares the fuck out of me. The thought of owing other people money that I may or may not have.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've never let myself get behind on any payments. I've never made a late payment whatsoever. I want my credit to look as good as possible, all that kind of stuff, because I'm just so scared that, because they always say debt, like once you get into debt, you're in debt. You don't ever get out of debt. You're never really, truly out of debt, because it's always going to follow you and haunt you, either on that credit score or whatever. And so say you get into debt and you fold on a few payments or something like that, then your credit score starts taking a hit. Well, then when you go to get a new car because your car just broke down, since your credit score took a hit because you couldn't pay your car payments, now your car payments are even more expensive because your credit score took that hit. And so then you pick up that, not even being able to really pay that, trying to make it work, can't pay those, and then the credit score drops again. And it's just a perpetual cycle of you falling further and further into debt. So as you said, that's something that scares the fuck out of me, and I don't want to have any part of that whatsoever.
It definitely seems like a system that's rigged for you to fail.
Yeah, it seems like it's a casino. The house always wins.
Yeah.
When you try to gamble with that kind of shit, it seems like the house always wins. So I try to keep my record spotless, squeaky clean, because I don't want to give any excuse for me to fail. I want to be able to succeed in life with anything I want to do. But it feels like for the people that get trapped in debt, it's just perpetual, and it's just a spiral that goes down, and they're never getting out of it.
Yeah, and the fact that they are in debt will also undoubtedly lead to other issues. They're going to lose their home. They're going to face depression. They're going to do all these horrible things that they're going to have to face, along with owing a bunch of people a bunch of money. Yeah,
and with the depression, that then leads people to using more anxiety medicine, and then that's big pharma coming back in. So maybe it is rigged. Maybe it's a system that's completely rigged.
Or maybe not even pharmaceutical medicine, but maybe even drugs,
Oh yeah, you can easily spiral downwards and start using meth or whatever else, cocaine, whatever.
Or even become an alcoholic.
Yeah, anything like that. You can just spiral out of control. And so I would hate to, I don't know, the way I look at it is it's an irrational fear, but I'm like, okay, so if I'm late on my car payment, and I start going into debt, maybe I'm a crackhead. That's a scary fucking thought.
Instant crackhead.
Yeah, you're just a crackhead like that,
So if you become one cent in debt, you're just automatically a crackhead, just quick as the blink of an eye.
Yeah, so if there's anyone out there listening and you're in debt but you're not a crackhead, email us. Let us know, because I don't believe you. I need pics or it didn't happen.
He just wants people to click on our email button.
That's very true, people. Just click on our shit. We're trying to do something here. It's pretty great. You love it. Send us a fucking email and engage with us, please.
Please. We need your support.
Yeah.
We need your support and love.
Support and love. So definitely do that. Show us some love. We appreciate it. But I mean, going back to the topic we were just on, I mean, with having a job and being in debt and stuff like that. So I read an article today that was actually talking about a world without jobs. And that article was saying, that, there's some futurists out there that are expecting like sometime by like 2080 or something like that there's not really going to be too many jobs left out there in the world. There's not going to be jobs just, like McDonald's, that's going to go complete robots, all these, just any job you can think of. For the most part, any job you can think of that doesn't have something to do with any kind of artistry or something like that is going to go. We're going to have technology that runs those jobs for us. So obviously with that, they're saying that, when all the jobs are taken over by robots for the most part, what the fuck are we going to do? And so, I mean, they're going to say, people are going to have a lot more time to do whatever they want to do in life, but what are you going to do for money and stuff like that? They were saying that the governments might have to introduce some universal basic income. I mean, for anyone that doesn't know what the universal basic income is, it's essentially the government pays everybody a check. So everyone that's living within that country gets paid, a set amount, $16,000, whatever it is. So, I mean, saying the government pays everyone $16,000. You get that check, yeah, it's great. You got 16 grand for not doing a fucking thing in your life. You're sitting around on the couch eating Cheetos, watching How High, and you get 16 grand. Sounds awesome. However, it's a little bit like socialism. It's kind of a little bit of a trap. Because if everyone's making the same amount, no one's essentially going to work any harder to do anything. No one's going to push innovation. No one's going to try to make the next great thing because you're not going to get paid for it, really. So, I mean, is there, that's obviously a problem that they would have to then look at and figure out some way to fix that problem. I mean, is there a way to fix that?
I mean, yeah, there has to be some way to incentivize people to push bounds, to become greater, to make greater things. I mean, since the beginning of this country, and even before then, humans have always been incentivized by money. But like I said before, money is a trivial thing that will eventually have no value. So, I mean, after money, there has to be something to incentivize us. I mean, whether it is trying to find food in an apocalypse scenario, or like you were talking about with the government, I mean, they have to come up with some rewards, some mechanism to make us desire to be better.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to come up with something. But I mean, in that same article, it was also talking about how that scenario would then increase the gap between the wealthy and the poor. So the people that continued to work and that had that artistry or whatever, singers and stuff, there's always going to be work for somebody that sings. There's always going to be work for somebody that paints or creates. Anyone that creates, there'll always be work for them. But for just the general blue-collar workers and stuff like that, when all of their jobs are replaced by robots, they're not going to have anything to do. So, I mean, we're going to have to figure out something to where, the blue-collar worker has something to do, because otherwise you're going to have just the artists that are just still getting super rich. And so that's going to put all the money in their hands because everyone else is just going to have this universal basic income. And so, I mean, they're going to have this $16,000 to live on, to buy food, whatever it is. But then all of those easy jobs, or I say easy jobs, all of the blue-collar jobs are going to be gone at that point. So, I mean, what's the solution to that?
I mean, I think that whenever we do get to that point, that we will just have to raise the education standards. I think that every human will have to have a more thorough education, that we will have to, get on the white-collar level as opposed to the blue-collar level.
So right now where we have the two different levels. We have white-collar jobs and blue-collar jobs. So once the blue-collar jobs are completely eliminated by robots, then we're going to have to essentially, what you're saying is hold people to a higher standard education-wise. To where, so what it's going to be like the whole globe is smarter and everyone has a higher education. So I mean, all of the essential people that would have grew up to be blue-collar workers are now going to have to go into some kind of white-collar work. So if the rest of the globe has, say the whole globe has this higher standard of living, everyone has this higher education system that they have to live up to, that collectively makes all of the people in the world smarter. So if everyone in the world's smarter, then that means that, we might be able to accomplish some greater fucking leaps that we're not able to accomplish right now. Because I mean, like anything that, that has to do with geniuses, right? So like, we were talking about last podcast with the Large Hadron Collider and subatomic particles and wormholes and all this shit. All this technology seems so far away. But if we get to the point to where all the blue-collar workers are replaced by robots, and then everyone who's essentially still living on the Earth then has to be held to a higher standard. So then instead of having this handful of people that are super smart working on the Large Hadron Collider, you then have the whole world population working on the Hadron Collider. So we might actually be able to expand upon all of these ideas and maybe break through and find some breakthrough science that takes us to a different place.
Essentially, what you're doing with that is that you're adding exponential processing power.
Right.
You're getting more great minds together to further leaps and bounds in scientific progress.
Yeah, so it's essentially like linking computers together, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have one computer doing some process or something like that, it's going to be a little slow. If you have 10 computers doing that same process, it's going to speed it up. So, and I forget what the article said when this was going to happen. Maybe it was like 2050 or 2080, somewhere about at one of those years that all of the blue-collar work will then be gone. So saying that it happens that soon, how long do you think it takes us to make those leaps and bounds in science that would then allow us to possibly open up wormholes and go to a different universe, or excuse me, not a different universe, but a different region of the universe?
I think that if everyone is working towards it, it's a matter of years after that point.
Yeah.
Because, if no one else has shit else to do besides work on quantum engines and stuff like that, then, it's going to happen. Yeah. It has to happen. That's how all technological advances are made. We work at something. And if you have 1 million people working at that thing instead of just 5 or 6, then you're definitely going to get there a hell of a lot quicker.
Well, some people, they try to argue the fact they're saying like, okay, well, saying there's all these robots to replace all these blue collar workers, somebody's going to have to build the robots. Somebody's going to have to do that. But what they're saying is that once we get to that point, the robots are then going to be self-aware and self-conscious or something like that, to where they essentially build themselves. They repair themselves. They build themselves. They innovate on themselves. And so, once we get to that point and there's no more blue collar work, what if the human race transcends into something different? What if our consciousness, we find some way to pull consciousness or something like that out of the normal human bonds of the human body, and then we're able to transcend that and go, possibly with the help of technology or something like that, to essentially move past what we are now. What is that next step? What are we, and once we get to this point and everyone, it's like a new enlightenment. So it's like the world is now becoming conscious again at this new stage of whatever this might be. So what is that next thing? What is it to where when we get so far advanced that we don't have normal jobs anymore, and then we have all of these great minds in the world who are held to this high standard, thinking about all of these crazy quantum mechanics and shit like that? What's that next bound for the human race?
What you're talking about is essentially the apotheosis of man. It's where man transcends into God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that, we are going to transcend and essentially become gods at that point. We are going to be creating new life and changing new lives, moving to different planets and terraforming those planets. We are going to be shaping worlds at our hands with our fingertips. So
we would essentially be what some of the stories say that have already came before us. We talked about the origin story of the Anunnaki, the origin story of the ancient Sumerians. Yeah. We talked about them, talking about an ancient race that came down here and bred us for whatever they needed us to do and then left. So, if we get to that point to where we can transcend and there's not, a ton of people doing all this mundane work and stuff like that, all the blue collar stuff, and we have time to sit around and think about all these different questions of the universe. What, like you said, what if we become gods? What if that's a thing to where we're going to new planets, we're going to new star systems, new galaxies, and essentially doing what possibly might have been done to us, going to those planets and creating life. And then what if it's just it's just like this reoccurring process that's something like the game The Sims. So for anyone that doesn't know a lot about video games, there's a game called The Sims. And in that game, you essentially play God. You have these avatars in there, what are called The Sims, and you control everything they do. You control when they go to the bathroom. You control what job they get, how hard they work, whatever the case may be. So once we get to that point, are we essentially, does that go back into this being a simulation theory, to where it's just this perpetual cycle to where we get so far advanced and we transcend the normal bounds of what it means to be a human, to where then we become gods, and then there's the stories that people pass down about how the gods created them, but in reality it's just humans that keep doing that, and then we go across the universe and forget about ourselves?
Or not even necessarily humans, but just intellectual life.
But what if it is humans, though?
It could be.
What if it's just like the movie Interstellar? Where we saw in the movie Interstellar, for spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't seen it, and if you haven't seen it, cut off the podcast right now, go watch that shit, come finish the podcast, because that's a fucking amazing movie. But for anyone that hasn't seen it, the humans on Earth, they find that there's a wormhole open up near Saturn. And so they are told, they talk, they debrief the main character and tell him, look, somebody opened a wormhole near Saturn. It's never been there before. It's there now. We don't know where it goes, but we need to go through there. So they go through the wormhole, and then going through the wormhole, they actually experience what they consider to be an ET, or an extraterrestrial. And what they think it is, it's actually like a fourth dimensional being or something like that, because it has like this shimmery look and they can't really tell what it is. And they reach out and actually hold hands with somebody on the ship that's kind of freaking out. But it all comes to this conclusion to where at the end, they find out that what it really is, what all of that was humans to begin with. It's humans that that went through a black hole and actually time traveled while doing so, and that got so far advanced and went back in the past to help themselves. And so what if that's the thing? What if we're all, all of this story of the gods and all of the story of creation is the human race jumping from galaxy to galaxy and planet to planet, creating new life once we transcend to that one spot where we're actually supposed to be? What if what if we are our gods?
So essentially we're seeds planted to grow into trees.
Yeah. And then what happens with those trees? They drop seeds and then they replant new trees. So, it's just this perpetual cycle that never stops. It's never ending. But we get to that same spot every time. Like, that's a given. And it seems like the human race is so ingrained in technology. We have this drive. It's just an urge from all of us. We want the newest. We want the greatest, the sleekest. We want to innovate. We want to make things smaller. Want to make all this shit. And there's like this huge drive being pushed behind us right now at a technological age that we're in. And what if that's because that's our nature? That's the human, because we're supposed to get so far past where we are now and get to that spot where we transcend and become what gods and seed the universe. So we're essentially like a program. We're going out, we're code written into this universe to populate this universe.
So we're a fucking virus.
Well, not necessarily I guess, you could look at it as a virus as well. It's a virus that's repopulating itself all over the universe, or it's some ancient code written by somebody or something, or maybe even ourselves. I don't know how it would work. I'm not a scientist. I don't claim to be one. I'm a guy in a closet. But I feel like I really need some weed for this. This is a conversation that you need to have when you're baked off your tits. But back to the fact. It could be a virus. You could look at us as a virus or something like that. But just the fact that could be a possibility. Because anything's possible, right? No one fucking knows. But thinking to the stories, all of the Greek gods, the Christian gods, the Muslim gods, all these gods. What if in all reality, they're just us, and there's this perpetual cycle that turns us into gods at some point?
That would definitely be a crazy concept.
Yeah,
and that's something that goes hand in hand with what is consciousness at that point. If we become gods, what is consciousness to us? Do we acknowledge that the ants themselves have feelings and emotions in their individual lives? Or do we see other races of intellectual life, aliens to speak? Do we see those as just inconsequential life and we just eliminate that?
Well, that's, I want to say it was Stephen Hawking that had that theory about if aliens ever came to Earth. They were saying, he was like, you don't want aliens to come to Earth. They're not going to be friendly. You think they would be friendly because, you think of yourself as an intellectual and they're an intellectual being as well. But in all reality, if they have the technology right now to do what we can only dream of as far as like wormholes and going across the universe and jumping millions of light years away, if they have that kind of technology, they're so far advanced our realm of comprehension and consciousness to where we are essentially to them is what a cockroach is to us. We're just this little inconsequential life, as you were saying. And what do? If you see a cockroach in your kitchen, what do? You smack that shit. You grab a shoe, you kill it. You don't feel remorse. You don't feel bad for killing the cockroach. You don't think about his cockroach family that's missing him right now. You kill it and you wipe that shit off in the fucking trash. So he was saying that if aliens ever came down here, we're essentially cockroaches. We are fucked. They're going to kill all of us, not think a single thing about it, and take all of our fucking resources for themselves.
Do you think that's how it would work, though?
I don't know. I guess, everyone would like to think that you get to a point intellectually as a race or a being to where, something like that could not happen, to where you think you would feel compassion or something like that. But just with us, we feel compassion to some things that are kind of close to us. So, I mean, like, you know, like with monkeys or something like that, or dolphins or whales, you know, they say they're really fucking smart. So, I mean, you know, we have a problem killing those, right? We have a problem killing that kind of animal. But when it goes down so far beyond, you know, or so far below our intellectual consciousness, you know, we don't have qualms about killing an ant. We don't care if a cockroach dies or a bee that stung you smack the shit out of it. So once you get down so far below what we consider to be intelligent, then it doesn't matter. So it would just have to be, what's that threshold for those other beings? Are we at the point of monkeys and dolphins to where they're like, oh, they're trying, look at those little rocket ships they got, that's kind of cute, we'll let them live? Or are they like, holy shit, they don't even got a warp drive, fucking kill these things?
See, what I like to think is that all comes with the apotheosis. You know, whenever we evolve to the point where we are creating life, I think that'll give us a lot more compassion to other life. You know, because whenever you work at something and you develop it and raise it to be your own, I think that you would essentially become extremely compassionate towards all life at that point, because you are creating it. You're not just living next to it.
So, I mean, at that point, it's kind of like a maternal feeling.
Yeah.
You know, so you're creating that. So that's essentially like a baby, or, you know, like your son, your daughter, or something like that. You created this. You bred this life. You gave it life. So, I mean, maybe that is what it is. Maybe you do feel compassion at that point.
Or, I mean, not even just towards the stuff that you yourself created, but, you know, towards all life. Because, I mean, at some level, everything has consciousness. Everything is living. And I think that whenever you evolve to a certain degree of intellect, that you have to acknowledge that, and you will become a very benevolent being.
So, I mean, do you believe that, though, that everything has consciousness? As far as what we know to be consciousness, right? So, I mean, just for me, back in college, I took a philosophy course, and honestly, it was the best fucking thing I ever did. You know, most of college I didn't care for. It was stupid. Like I said, it was real easy. Just didn't even fucking think about it. Whatever. But that one philosophy course that I took was actually really fucking amazing. And, you know, we learned a lot of different things in there. One of those was actually Descartes. So Descartes had the famous saying, I think, therefore I am. And so he was trying to figure out what consciousness is and how to tell if he's conscious right now. How would I know that this is real, is what his question is. How do you know? And that went into the ontological status of the material world, or existentialism. How do you know that the stuff that's around you right now is actually real? How do you know it's there? Well, I can see that. You know, I can see it. I can see that it's there. Okay, well, you can see it with your eyes. Have your eyes never played a trick on you? Have you never looked down the road on a really hot day and saw what you thought to be water? You drive past it and it is just a mirage? So if you know your eyes can play tricks on you, you know they're not 100% correct. How do you know it's correct now? And so it was just all this really deep thought, and it went into the old saying, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? What is sound? You know, it's just something we perceive. Well, if no one's there to perceive it, is it still real? So if you're sitting here, what if you're not really perceiving this? Is it real then? So, I mean, you went back and forth on both the topics, and then, you know, Descartes finally came up with his answer to it. And he went through back through Socrates and stuff like that. So, I mean, he had a lot of teachers as well. But Descartes came up with his philosophy is, I think, therefore I am. And he was saying that no matter what, if I can ask myself, am I conscious? You're conscious. You can't ask yourself that while you're asleep. If you got knocked out because you got hit by a car, you can't think in your head, am I conscious? No, you're knocked out. You're unconscious. Your consciousness leaves your body at that point. So if you can ever think the question, if you can ever ask yourself the question, am I conscious right now? You know, I mean, so if you can ask that, that means you are. Do you think an ant has those kind of thoughts?
Maybe not on this level of an ant, but I think the close there above they do. You know, like rodents and stuff like that. I think that they definitely do have the ability to have those thoughts. I
mean, obviously they wouldn't have it in language, right? They wouldn't think that in a language. But, you know, it's weird. What is the cutoff point to where we just don't give a fuck? And for us, that's insects. Because there's some people that don't want, you know, lab rats tested and stuff like that because animal rights. You're never going to see an animal rights group trying to help ants. It's not going to fucking happen. People that love animals and that, you know, claim to be animal rights, or animal conservatives or whatever it might be, they'll fucking flick an ant off a picnic any day of the week. So what's that point? What does it have to do to be considered good enough for us to at least give a fuck about?
Right. That goes back to what I was saying. All life has sanctity. You know, every single living, breathing thing is, once again, a living, breathing thing. And I think that in itself deserves some recognition.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of goes into the movie like Avatar, right? You know, they had their deity, Aowa, was essentially what we would consider Mother Earth, or, you know, the Earth Mother, whatever, you know, something like that. And so everything, at least in their belief system, and what we found out if you watch the movie to be true, is everything there is actually connected. It's connected through essentially what we would consider a neural network of a synapses or whatever it might be. So the trees are connected to the grass, which is connected to the bushes, and you know, all this stuff is interconnected. It's connected to the animals. And they actually say, like, you know, something I've never done, but like if you take mushrooms, if you do enough of it, they say you can like almost see the interconnectivity between the trees and the leaves and the wind and all of this shit. So like if you actually, you know, do enough mushrooms or something like that, you can actually see that everything's connected, and you can see how it's connected. But then once you come down, you kind of lose that knowledge. So I mean, do you think that our Earth and our universe is connected, like in that movie, to where the wind is connected to the trees, and then all life is connected through this one, you know, giant spiral of consciousness or something like that, a collective consciousness for all life on the Earth?
I mean, it's definitely possible. Once again, like we talked about a few podcasts ago, I don't have any fucking clue. So therefore, I don't think I'm in a position to make a certain decision on that.
Yeah.
I mean, do I think it's possible? Yes, absolutely. I think fucking anything's possible until it's disproven.
I think it'd be cool as shit, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what if in 20 years we find out that everything is connected, and all those ants you stepped on are actually fucking crying and shit like that? Like, that's some crazy shit to think about. But once we get to that point, I think, as you said, we would become a lot more benevolent to all forms of life.
I think that with enlightenment comes benevolence.
Yeah.
And I think that whenever we do reach that certain point of being enlightened, so to speak, that we will have compassion.
I hope so. Because if not, then, I mean, it's the same thing. We might go to another world and find some alien life form that we consider to be like ants, and we just start killing it.
Like, once again, in Avatar.
Yeah.
You know, humans came to Pandora, they fucked shit up, and...
Well, because they wanted the resources on the planet. And so when they went over there, they found these people essentially living like tribal people. You know, they live in just like all the tribes that we know here in the Amazon or wherever else. Like, they're not civilized, you know, whatever. You know, we need to move them the fuck out so we can reap what we want. You know, we want this certain metal that they have in their earth. Well, we just want that fucking metal. These guys are uncivilized. They're not worth our time. We'll just fucking kill them and take what we want.
In all likelihood, that is going to be the future, I think. I mean, you know, you look at, hell, even just America today. You know, we go over to the Middle East, we fuck shit up because we want oil and lithium.
Well, but I mean, that's not just today. I mean, that's forever.
Yeah.
I mean, same, you know, with like the fucking conquistadors coming over to South America, and, you know, all the tribal people, the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Inca, all them, you know, they essentially regarded these guys as gods. You know, they came over here with all this crazy technology. They would give them gold. They would physically just walk into their house, grab gold that they have, and come and just give it to them, you know, saying, here, take this. This is our present to you. And then we're like, oh, hey, cool, you got some gold? We're just going to fucking kill you and take all the rest of it. No, I don't want, a fifth of your gold. I want all your gold. So it seems like, you know, we want to think that once we get to that point, that we would transcend, you know, into being gods or something like that we would have compassion. But yet the human race has never shown compassion for anything like that. When we see something we want, we just go and take it because we consider, and maybe it's a lie we tell ourselves. Maybe we're just so greedy and we want that so bad that we're just saying, oh, they're not like us. They're lower than we are. They're not as smart as we are. You know, they're tribal people, whatever it is. Like you said, Middle East, they're not as civilized as we are. And then we just go over there and tell ourselves whatever lie we have to feed ourselves to get what we want. So, I mean, whereas it feels like, you know, it would be awesome if we got to that point to where we had so much compassion and, you know, all this love and stuff for all living life, but yet we've never shown that up until this point. So I think it's a little bit grim outlook on what it would actually be.
Oh, yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I was listening to one of Joe Rogan's podcasts, and I forget who he had on there, but the dude who he had on there said that we are pleasure monkeys. And I think that describes us so very well. I mean, we live our everyday lives to seek pleasure, to find what makes us happy and what brings us joy and peace. And I mean, you know, if that thing happens to be gold or oil or lithium, then that's what we're going to do. And we are going to take every single step possible to get that stuff to bring us that pleasure.
And that even, you know, those steps even include killing people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you think we could escape that normal bounds of human nature to where if we get to the point to where we transcend and start terraforming other worlds and stuff like that, would we have that compassion? Or would we do as all of our ancestors have done and rape and pillage?
I like to think that we would, because I think at that point where we can create life, I don't think we're any longer humans. I think we're something else entirely.
So the human race is no longer the human race. We transcend into what would be gods.
Yeah, that's what I would like to think. But like I said before, more than likely we're going to rape and pillage.
Yeah, it's a grim outlook, but I mean...
It's reality, though.
It is reality. I fear that it's reality, I agree. But think for a second, let's say that the opposite happens. Think that, so what if, we don't end up raping and pillaging and stuff like that, and we do transcend into this benevolent being of gods or whatever you want to call us. Let's even throw another spin on it. What if say it's in our lifetime? It's not going to happen. We know it. We're not anywhere close to it. But what if it happened in our lifetime to where we became gods? We could go to other universes, other dimensions, wherever else, create life, extinguish life out of existence, whatever, all these different powers. Say we became gods. What's the first thing you're going to do with that power?
I just want to see everything, man. Like, I don't give a shit about creating stuff. I want to see the deepest depths of the darkest ocean. I want to climb to the tallest peaks on the, most volatile planet. I want to see all the beautiful and amazing things that the universe has to have created out there that we can't even begin to perceive in our mind's eye.
Yeah, because, there's so many crazy shit, there's so much crazy shit out there already that we know to be true. And, if the universe is as big as we think it is, there has to be shit out there that our fucking tiny little pea-brain human minds can't even perceive, can't even comprehend. So, so you're saying that you wouldn't go out and create a new planet and become the deity where they had stories of you, the god that created them. You just want to go see whoever or whatever created this universe. You want to see their hard work and their labor and what they made.
Yeah, that's really all I desire. I would love to see, just whole planets made out of diamond and shit like that. Just crazy stuff that we can't even begin to comprehend. We see all this beautiful, amazing stuff here on Earth, like the Rocky Mountains and the giant sequoias and all of that. And that has to pale in comparison to some of the things out there in the universe.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say, if you find that diamond planet and we're both gods at the same time, let me know, because I want to see that diamond planet. Totally won't steal anything from it.
No, you're not stealing shit from my diamond planet.
No, that's all right. What are you going to name the diamond planet?
Beyonce.
Beyonce? That's a good one. I like that. But I guess we'll leave this podcast tonight with a question to anyone that's listening. So, saying that you got the powers of a god, saying that you transcended past the normal intellectual capacity that humans have today, say you become a god, what kind of powers would you have? What would you do with those powers? Would you make the world a better place? Would you make a new world? What would you do? But this has been the Random Words Podcast, and hopefully we made your Monday just a little bit better. I'm Jason, this is Matt, and we'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy.
See you bitches later.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this week's episode. But in the meantime, if you're wanting to keep up with the show, there's a few different places you can reach out to us at. We're on Twitter at randomwordscast, facebook.com/The Random Words Podcast, and you can find our archives on YouTube. Also, if you want to send us an email, hit us up at therandomwordspodcast@gmail.com. And don't worry, we'll be back next week to fill your ears once again. Stay beautiful, you fucks.
The Random Words Podcast will shut down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Goodbye.